goes with critters. What wouldn't go with little alien monsters who eat their way through Kansas while intergalactic bounty hunters do just as much damage looking for them, with Dee Wallace Stone as the mom. You know it's a sci-fi flick when Dee Wallace Stone is the mom. I'm Joe Bob Briggs with Critters. Coming up.
See MonsterVision host Joe Bob Briggs next on TNT.
Joe Bob Briggs here, and tonight the movie that answers the question, what's eating the American farmer? Man-eating porcupine tumbleweeds with enormous teeth are about to escape from their outer space prison and head to Grover's Bend, Kansas to munch on the population. I'm talking, of course, about Critters, with the best intergalactic monsters since Zsa Zsa Gabor starred in Queen of Outer Space, and they wear a lot less makeup. I've been watching a lot of court TV lately. I have a question. Why do people on the witness stand lie about stuff that doesn't even matter? You know, isn't it true, Mr. Mossfelt, that before you identified this man as the thief, you were complaining that your contact lenses were dirty? And all Mr. Mossfelt has to do is say, yeah, they were dirty. And then later he can say, but they weren't that dirty. I could still see the guy. But instead he says, I don't recall. And so the lawyer says, you don't recall whether your contacts were dirty or you don't recall saying they were dirty. And Mr. Mossfelt says, I don't think they were dirty. And so the lawyer says, your testimony today is that your contacts were not dirty and you did not tell Anthony Verrazano that they were dirty. Is that correct? By this time, the jury is going, what is this guy trying to hide? Or you see the same thing when somebody just plain remembers it wrong. So he remembers it one way on May 30th and another way on June 30th and another way on July 30th, and the lawyer says, would you say your memory was better today or 3 months ago, right after the event occurred? And they won't answer this question. They'll say anything to make the jury think that whatever they remember today is exactly the truth, when all they have to say is, well, the details were probably better back 3 months ago, but the gist of it is the same. Or they could even say, you know what? You're right. I did say something different the first time you asked me. I'll be horsewhipped if I didn't. Why don't people just do that? Somebody give me an explanation, because I'm fresh out. Anyhow, the outlaws in Critters have already been tried and convicted, so when they escape, the Outer Space King sends a couple of bounty hunters to blow them away. We'll do the drive-in totals at the first break, but check this out. Great movie. Dee Wallace Stone gets visited by rabid aliens. You can't beat this. The best cross between E.T. and Cujo of 1986. Okay, go. Great song, Power of the Night. And don't worry, we will hear it again. All right, the bounty hunters are after the Critters, officially known as the Krites, and all the way to Earth they watch MTV on their monitors, so right before they get there, one of the bounty hunters turns himself into a Mick Jagger lookalike and threatens to do entire scenes from Let's Spend the Night Together. Is that about what happens? I think so. Actually, the big-haired bounty hunter is Terrence Mann. Pretty successful Broadway actor, played Rum Tum Tugger in Cats. That's right, we all know that. Also did the original cast recordings for Beauty and the Beast and Les Miserables. And he played assistant choreographer to Michael Douglas in the movie version of The Chorus Line. So making him a natural for the outer space heavy metal vigilante of Critters. He sings, he dances, he hunts down homicidal aliens with heavy artillery. So here's those drive-in totals I promised you. We have outstanding slime spewing, 1 breast scissored out, of course, 2 dead bodies, 4 mutilated bodies, 8 dead critters, 1 motor vehicle chase with 2 crashes, 3 tumbleweed chases, 3 gallons of blood, stomach eating, pitchfork chewing, explicit cow guts, also known as bovine foo, garbage disposal symbolism, finger rolls, extra points for gratuitous toy E.T. eaten by a critter, gratuitous Methodist church destruction, shotgun foo, toilet foo, aerosol can and lighted match foo, 4 stars. Okay, back in a few. You think Power of the Night was an attempt to compete with Power of Love? Same year, right? Power of Love is, that's part of what made Back to the Future a hit. And Power of the Night is part of what made Critters a sort of interesting cult movie phenomenon, right? And I know that, because every time I hear Power of the Night on the radio, I think outer space porcupine hunters. It's immediate.
More in a moment with Joe Bob's MonsterVision and Critters after these messages.
You know what makes these outer space aliens truly annoying? They land on bowling league night. And, of course, that's Billy Zane as the dork from New York, making out with the horny little family pork chop there. Nadine Vandervelde is her name. Nice ponytail there on Billy, though. This was Billy's second flick after a small part in Back to the Future, several years before he plucked his eyebrows and played the mean fiancé in Titanic. Critters is one of those movies that set off a couple of careers. It was the first thing Stephen Herrick wrote and directed, and he's gone on to be pretty major. He did Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Mr. Holland's Opus, Holy Man, and one of our favorites around here, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Texas Boy. Went to UT to play baseball, didn't make the traveling squad, and so he decided to be a filmmaker. But to get into the senior filmmaking class, you had to write a script and do a budget on it, and he didn't make the cut there either. So basically, he was a big loser until he graduated and went to Hollywood and proved them all wrong with Critters. All right, let's do the ads and then get back to the movie. Actually, Stephen hired a lot of the same guys who worked on Android, so I guess that's a flick that deserves the credit, because both movies are based on the Roger Corman principle of making low-budget revisions of hot movies. And now Stephen Herrick makes big-budget revisions of hit movies, like 101 Dalmatians, you know? He forgot his drive-in roots, though, didn't he? Went hardtop on us. Always a shame when that happens.
More in a moment with Joe Bob's MonsterVision and Critters after these messages.
No, it's a meaner hell.
Well, Dad escaped, but the deputy sheriff just got made into pasta carbonara under his squad car, didn't he? I'm going to mention that he's a regular on Star Trek Voyager, otherwise I'll get all kinds of letters from the Trekkies saying, Joe Bob, I can't believe you didn't mention that Ethan Phillips, who plays Neelix on Voyager, was in that movie. How could you miss that? See, the universe has different priorities for Trekkies. Have you noticed that? And here's my address for those who want to tell me again that it's Trekkers and not Trekkies. 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, or email me at joebob@turner.com. Okay, commercials, and then we'll get back to Critters. And by the way, that's Billy Green Bush as the dad. And looks like somebody forgot to tell him about the basement principle of horror flicks. It's one of the easy ones, too. Let's see if I can remember the exact words of it. It goes like this. Oh, yeah. Don't go into the basement. All right? Look for the homage to the birds coming up.
More in a moment with Joe Bob's MonsterVision and Critters after these messages.
So, after making the sign of the twin-pronged alfalfa plow with the slutty farm girl, Billy Zane got munched into a furry Frito, and then the critter ate one of Brad's homemade firecracker bombs and didn't blow up. But there's a reason that the critter didn't blow up, and that reason is that the special effects guys, the Chiodo brothers, had a limited number of animatronic critters, and they couldn't afford to trash one of them in case the other ones went on the blink. So instead, they just had the thing roll over and belch, or whatever it did, which is funnier anyway. By the way, who recognizes Brad, the young hero? Why, it's Scott Grimes from Party of Five. Plays Bailey's best friend, Will McCorkle. Remember he had a little thing with Jennifer Love Hewitt before she and Bailey got married? And remember that time when Bailey and Will went on that road trip to Mexico? How scary is it that I know this stuff? All right, roll the ads and let's get back to the flick. You guys did notice the birds homage, didn't you? When the family's all in the living room and the daughter is crying by the fireplace, and you think the critters are going to come down the chimney like the birds did, but then they don't? So they played against the classic. Either that or the mechanical critters were all in the shop that day. One of those two things.
More in a moment with Joe Bob's MonsterVision and Critters after these messages.
I'll talk to you.
Why is M. Emmett Walsh sleeping? Didn't we just have a scene where Sally, the sheriff's office dispatcher, told Charlie that Sheriff Harv was at the bowling alley? And then Charlie goes to the bowling alley, but he's not there. What's with that? Did Emmett miss a couple days shooting or something? Anyway, if there's anything that makes a Kansas town madder than aliens demolishing the Methodist church with a stolen cop car, it's shooting up the bowling alley on League night. And Rusty, you didn't wait for my intro. You're supposed to wait for...
It's getting old waiting back there.
Oh, well, don't let my show get in the way of doing your job, Rusty.
I figured we'd do a Joe Bob's jailbreak tonight since the critters are escaped convicts. This one's from Larry Rye at the Crowley County Correctional Facility in Olney Springs, Colorado.
Rusty, the TNT mail girl, taking initiative. I kind of like that. Dear Joe Bob, my name is Larry Rye. My friends call me Worm. If the truth was to be known, it's Rusty the mail lady I'm writing to. She's a knockout. I sure would like to share that MonsterVision T-shirt with her. I'd crawl up inside it and let my I don't think we're allowed to say that on TNT. Okay, let's just skip down here. Well, Rusty. Oh, by the way, Joe Bob, there's a couple of guys that really love you. Your show. Anyway, they said to tell you hi. They wouldn't give me any names, but I think one of them goes by the name of Bubba. Well, Rusty, I think you and I should get together someday. That's been my fantasy. He likes you a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. I hadn't been down that long. I'm a good-looking guy, 36 years old, and I make $1.70 a day. I know you're probably saying, wow, $1.70 a day. I know things would be tight at first, but hey, if you were comparing love for money, then I guess you could say that I'm a millionaire. But if we can't be together, Rusty, for some reason, and you break my heart, could you at least send me a picture of yourself? It does say picture. Because life without seeing you wouldn't be the same. You're a friend always, Larry the Worm. P.S. Hey, Joe Bob, Bubba said good night to tell you his DOC number in case you'd like to write him sometime. Well, appreciate the support, Worm. And that's exactly the kind of approach that normally works with Rusty, isn't it, Russ?
Oh, yeah.
So hang in there, Worm, and don't cause any more uprisings. Free your mind, and your butt will follow.
Oh, and tell Bubba Joe Bob says hi.
Shut up.
More in a moment with Joe Bob's MonsterVision and Critters after these messages.
Some excellent hysterical screaming by Dee Wallace Stone as the mom. Dee's job in this movie is to scream hysterically. Okay, we got the Critters Have Fun scene out of the way. If you're going to do a Gremlins ripoff, you got to recreate the Gremlins Have Fun scene. And you know that part where one of the critters suddenly gets really big for no apparent reason? Well, that surprised the Chiodo brothers, too. They're the special effects guys I mentioned earlier. They'd already spent their whole budget making all those little saber-toothed puppets. And they're about halfway done shooting the film, and the producers come to them and they say, let's make a big one that jumps out of the closet. And the only thing they could afford to do was throw something together and edit it alien style so you didn't notice that it was a midget with a shag carpet strapped to his back. So, okay, back in a few. Oh, and I haven't mentioned Lynn Shay as Sally, the police gal, sister of Robert Shay, founder and CEO of New Line Cinema, who produced this flick. Lynn actually looks normal in this movie. Remember Magda, the leathery old lady, and There's Something About Mary? Well, that was Lynn Shay. Lynn says she plays so many ugly characters, she's one of the few actresses who looks better without the makeup. Although she looked pretty dang good in Freddy's New Nightmare. She was one of those nurses who got sliced and diced in that. Of course, most women believe that everyone looks better without makeup. Oh, honey, you're so pretty, you don't need makeup. What is that? 0.5% of the population is like that? Don't start that, ladies. Whose idea was that? Most of them need makeup.
More in a moment with Joe Bob's MonsterVision and Critters after these messages.
So the critters leave their eggs and the Brown family gets their house back through the magic of the cell phone. An uplifting story later followed, of course, by Critters 2 through 4. I never did figure out what M. Emmett Walsh was doing in this flick, though. Did you notice where it says additional scenes written by Don Opper? Don Opper is the guy who played Goofball Charlie. Don wasn't satisfied with the script as written. He was improvising all over the lot, wasn't he, for his art. All right, I want to let you know that next week here on the show, Breeders. What can I say? You guys didn't want me hosting Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? TNT listened. That's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that the fastest animal on Earth with a top speed of 120 feet per second is a bull moose that's been dropped out of a helicopter. Guy goes to a doctor who tells him that he has a bad illness and only a year or two to live. So the guy decides to talk to his pastor. He explains the situation and asks the pastor if there's anything he can do. And the pastor says, what you should do is go out and buy a late 70s or early 80s model Dodge pickup, and then go get married to the ugliest woman you can find, and buy yourselves an old trailer house in the panhandle of Oklahoma. And the guy says, will this help me live longer? And the pastor says, no, but it'll make what time you do have seem like forever. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. Little old lady. I love little old lady jokes. Little old lady is walking up and down the halls of her nursing home, flipping the hem of her nightgown up in the air and saying, super sex, super sex. And she walks up to this old man in a wheelchair and she flips her nightgown up at him and she says, super sex, The old man looks at her for a long minute, and then he says, I'll take the soup.